zeros after it. AppleWorks before could not handle a number this big, but with scientific notation, you can now display large numbers and similarly small numbers. Also new in the spreadsheet is several additional new functions. Several of these have to do with text. Refer to the screenshot, notice join. What this does is takes two strings and put them together. For instance, Mr. and Smith. By joining the cells that contain Mr. and Smith, we have Mr. Smith. To have made this a little nicer formatting, we should have really said @join A4, comma, quotes, a space, close quotes, and cell B4. Would have put a space in between Mr. and Smith. Next, we have the mid function, which allows us to take any amount out of the middle of a string. So for instance, in the Social Security number, if for any reason you needed the second portion of it, you could set up the mid function in such a way that you could pull it out. What this is actually telling us is it's saying use the middle function, start 5 characters in, and from that point pull out 2 characters, and of course out of cell A11. We also have a find, which allows us to search for a string inside of another string. It's set up in this way. We tell it where to start. @find, starting from position number 1, it says look for "and" inside of the word understanding, and it finds it at the 8th position. Now, in itself, this isn't very useful, but in combinations with other formulas, we can do a lot of great things. For instance, in a name, we can pull out the first name portion by using the formula listed below. It's saying, starting with @mid, because number 1, we want to start in the first position. We want to pull out that first name. We know where the first name ends because of the space. So we want to find that space inside of Al Jones of C47. And sure enough, we have the name Al. Value allows us to take a text string and find the value of it. For instance, if we have a number, for instance, that 35 even that was in that Social Security number, we may need to do formulas on it. We need some way to turn it into a number, and that's why we have the val function. Let's just go right to it. If we want to know the value of the 35 inside of 92, we already went over the mid function. It's saying take the middle of it, the 35, and with the @val, we turn it into a value. Now it's available for other calculations. For instance, we may want to multiply it by 2. Let's take 2 multiplied by what we got out of this formula, and sure enough, 70. Upper is one of the easier ones. It simply takes a string and turns it into all uppercase. You'll notice this, it's a collection of lower and uppercase numbers. By using the @upper function, we turn it into all uppercase. This might be very useful in titles. Similarly, lowercase functions in the same manner. If we look at this collection of upper and lowercase, it simply turns them into all lowercase. Another one is the length function, @len, which will return the length of a string. For instance, we just ask for the length of apple. It's 5 characters long. It returns the number 5. Again, this is pretty useless all by itself, but used in combination with other formulas, it becomes of a much greater value. For instance, now we have the other side of the coin. We want to get the last name out of Al Jones's name. If you'll observe the formula below, it shows us how to get that last name. I'm not going to go into it, but the user may observe it. The text function will take a value and turn it into a string of text. What this is good for is if you need to use the value within another text function, for instance, within @join. In fact, right now I'm going to show you an example of that. You already saw in this accounts receivable listing that we made an aging. Observe this label. It's a right pointing arrow, and it means is greater than 90. What we were able to do now is to be able to change another column and reflect that change by using the text statement. For instance, maybe we needed 100 days here instead of 90. Simply type in the 100 and notice that the formula to the right of it changed. Let's look at it for just a minute. It asks us to join that greater sign with the text value of the number that was in F3. And the reason we needed to use text is because @join will not work on numbers. It's restricted only to text. Okay, going back to more new functions. We've already covered the date function, so we will move past that. AddAlert puts up a dialog box inside of the spreadsheet. It'll display any text that the user wishes. For instance, in a case where you know you have entered data that was out of bounds. Let's look at it for a second. It's asking us to look at A71. And it says if it finds a 0 in there, use the alert of what is ever in A70. Let's look at A70 for a moment. It says you must enter the correct amount of exemptions. In other words, it knows that 0 was not the correct amount. You've said, nope, we don't want a 0. We need something else besides 0. So if the user enters a 0, okay, you must enter the number of exemptions. Go back, you know something was wrong, enter a 1, and there we have it. The data is now correct. With all of these new functions, you may find it hard to remember them. What we've done is given you a simple method to jog your memory. For instance, you're in the midst of a formula and you've forgotten now what it is that you needed. You want to do a date, so type OpenAppleF, and it gives you a list of these functions. Simply scroll down to date and press return and notice that it entered it inside of your formula. Also look just below the cursor and to the right. It gives you a picture of what that formula was, as well as the parameters that you need. Now you can simply look at that and enter them. It says, okay, year, 1993, month, 12, and the day, 25. And there we'll have the Julian date now for one of my favorite days of the year. Sure enough, there we have it. The new spreadsheet also has a greatly enhanced find command. For instance, one of the new things you can do is to be able to search backwards through a spreadsheet file. Let's try to find my name in this file. Notice that the cursor is already ahead of my name. Let's go into our find command and ask it to find text. It wants to know now if we want to search ahead by row, which is the fashion that starts from cell A1, if we want to go back by row, or we can go down or up by columns. In this case, we're going to go backwards by row, searching for my name. The comparison, Dan, and notice that it went backwards and found my name. Let's see if it can find another instance of it. We asked it just there by using an OpenAppleR to repeat the last command, and sure enough, it found another instance of my name, Dan. Now let's look for the name Jerry. Notice that it occurs twice in this spreadsheet, but we're only interested in the occurrence of column A. And we want to know, perhaps, if there are more in column A, but we're not interested in any columns to the right. Let's go once again into our find, OpenAppleF. Let's ask it to find some text. And we're going to go down by the column. Ordinarily, this would go down, up to column B, go down and up to column C. But by pressing the OpenApple key, we will restrict the find to the particular row or column that the cursor is starting in. So for instance now, let's push down the OpenApple key, press down by column. This time we're going to look for Jerry. And it found Jerry in this column. Now we're going to ask it to repeat it once again, and it should not find the occurrence of Jerry that we see on the screen. And sure enough, it couldn't find Jerry because it was restricted. Additionally, we can do a find on a number. You'll notice near the bottom we have several instances of the number 1. Go over to number for our find, and we'll just go ahead by row, and we'll ask it to find the number 1. Sure enough, it found number 1, found all our instances of number 1. Look at this formula a minute and notice @int the number 2.5. We can also search for